Chair Reyes,
Present.
Giovanna Rodriguez,
Present.
Selena Reyes, Anna Levy, Mark LaPlante,
Present.
Gregory Del Rosio, Stephanie Infante.
Thank
Lavelle.
you. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Act 2022, this meeting of committee as a whole is being conducted both in person and via remote participation. A reminder that the person who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may either attend in person at the location above or use of any of the following access locations: Facebook Lawrence City Council page and YouTube Lawrence City Council page. Councilor, I have a minutes to approve. Can I get a motion to approve the minute of Monday, November 8, 2021, November 15, 2021, and Monday, November 22nd, 2021?
So moved. Second.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call. Councilor Infante. Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Gregory Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni.
Yes.
Councilor Mark LaPlante, President.
Yes.
Councilor Levy. Councilor De La Cruz. She's absent. Thank you. I'm also have another minutes to approve, which is 8/15/2021.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Roll call. Stefan Infante.
Abstain.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz. Absent. Councilor Levy. And Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair voting yes. Councilor, I'm going to be taking some item out of order. Can I get a motion to take document 6322 out of order and out of table?
Second.
Motion has been to take document 6322 out of order and out of table, has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilor Stephanie.
Yes.
Councilor Selena.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilor Maria de la Cruz is absent. Councilor Levy. Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair voting yes, motion passed. So the document 6322 is the Kennedy School of the Government Preliminary Lawrence Vision for Economic Property. It has been put on the agenda by the Mayor Brian DePena and Mr. Carras. We have Mr. Carras online, so we can ask all the questions, and we're just going to let him to speak so that way we can ask for any question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was wondering if somebody could enable the share screen function. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Share. Yep.
I'm not sure it's the right thing. That's your access. We don't want that. Stop share. Wait a second.
Okay.
That's good. I'm not sure how to use that one, but you know something? That's a smart one. I'm not sure how to get his going.
I think it's good. We should be okay.
It's good. Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. I'm here for the next few minutes to share with you the mayor's preliminary economic prosperity plan for the city of Lawrence. I am James Karras. I am principal of my consulting firm, Karras Community Investment, and I'm also a lecturer at the Kennedy School of Government and also a senior fellow at Harvard's Advanced Leadership Initiative, where I'm focusing on equitable community and economic development. I just on a personal note, I was born in Boston. I went to public schools in Boston. I'm a graduate of Suffolk University in Boston and also did my graduate work at Tufts University and Harvard University. And for the past 30 years, I've been consulting and teaching, and my consulting work is in community and economic development. With me in terms of working on this prosperity plan for the mayor are 3 graduate students from Harvard University's Kennedy School of Government. And they particularly worked on during the month of January, during their January term, and helping to do research and surveying and interviewing some key community stakeholders, primarily most of the key nonprofit organizations that are partners with the city of Lawrence. So the mayor, when he was elected, reached out to me and wanted to engage in a discussing his agenda for the next 4 years as the mayor of Lawrence in terms of promoting economic prosperity in Lawrence. And his policy priorities are within these broad categories of a sustainable community development, building community capacity, the ability to manage businesses and nonprofit organizations, as well as development projects to stimulate reinvestment and attract new investment into Lawrence. And then a real strong focus on small business innovation, as well as housing development. And then finally look at the physical, public and physical infrastructure needs that exist in Lawrence, as well as how do we make Lawrence a more vibrant economy. And what I'm going to do tonight is give you an introduction to our approach. The plan itself will be done by early May. I want to get your feedback certainly tonight, but probably more importantly, as of tomorrow, we'll call each of you to set up an appointment to meet with you individually to get your individual feedback. So this is a preview of the general direction, the 10,000-foot level direction of where we're headed with the mayor's economic prosperity plan. When we think of some context, when we look at cities and economic prosperity, cities are, including Lawrence, have a number of challenges. We're dealing with global competition and certainly the disruption in terms of global activity relative to the war in Ukraine. Issues of social inclusion in terms of, particularly in the United States, assimilation of immigrants and inclusion in the social and economic order. Housing affordability, particularly in the greater Boston region, is of significant concern. Transportation mobility, demographic transformation, technological disruption, new technologies, constantly changing workforce issues and how we live. And most of us have seen these dramatic changes over our lifetime due to technology. And certainly climate change and COVID are some of the tough challenges that all cities, including Lawrence, are facing. But in terms of addressing these challenges, we've seen a number of cities around the country and around the world who have come up with new ways of thinking about innovation, about infrastructure and inclusion and equity for all its residents, and fueling long-term economic competitiveness and social mobility. So within this context, we think about the plan that we're going to be working on, and we want to come up with solutions that embrace the notion of an investment playbook. I'm a great believer, and I have been over my career, that the most important thing here is how do we implement any plan or any recommendations? And that's going to take primarily two key things. Is one is capacity, the ability to do what we say we're going to do, and two is investment, is capital investment. So there's a lot of focus on this plan. It's going to be on capital, on money, on funding, on financing. And so we'll be doing this within the context of creating investment playbooks for all these areas that we're going to focus on. We want to be also get commitments from anchor institutions and partners in terms of major employers, nonprofit institutions, and others within the Lawrence economy. And we also want to focus on entrepreneurial strategies where small businesses are the driver of most local economies. And certainly one could argue they're the driver of the American economy, since they create over 65% of new jobs are created by small businesses. And that's, and we know entrepreneurs and small businesses are a key part of Lawrence's local economy. We want to look at new financial products and funds and creating new institutions and intermediaries and partnerships to manage this investment playbook and this focus. Is to paraphrase Bob Dylan, if you want, those cities that are not busy being born are busy dying. So we are focusing on the continued birthing, if you will, of Lawrence in terms of innovation, of the use of capital, and being a smarter and more sustainable city and environment. So the areas I'm going to focus on over the next 10, 15 minutes are 5 particular areas in terms of the investment playbook. As I mentioned, small businesses and the entrepreneurial economy are really key economic assets. We want to talk about that in the policy, in the prosperity plan. We want to focus on housing, which is a core need for the residents of Lawrence. We want to look at redevelopment opportunities as well as infrastructure projects that should receive priority funding. And then overall economic development. How do we drive new investment for the city sustainable developments and projects, as well as addressing workforce development and public education? This is a tall order, but they're all tied in. All of these key elements are tied in to making up the economic prosperity plan. When we focus on small businesses and the entrepreneurial ecosystem, in other words, how do we encourage, how do we support, how do we help grow small businesses? And their focus has to be on access to capital, access to technology, and access to markets and customer bases, and support system, including training and technical advice and targeted programs in terms of helping businesses with marketing and branding campaigns. They need access to affordable space, whether it's retail, office, incubator, or co-working spaces. And they need access to qualified employees and workforce development that are targeted to the businesses in Lawrence. And they need access to a market, a community of businesses that can be formed supportive peer networks and also act as suppliers and customers. And finally, and particularly in Lawrence, we need access to helping these businesses to get the appropriate credentials, licensing, and permits that are needed for new market opportunities. So these are the areas we're going to focus on in terms of the prosperity plan relative to small businesses. As the mayor indicated in his State of City address a couple of months ago, there's a need for a more holistic approach to propelling entrepreneurship and business growth in Lawrence. We want to focus on supporting entrepreneurs and existing businesses of all kinds to thrive, from vendors and general contractors to food-related and childcare businesses. All of these have numerous businesses in Lawrence. These businesses with technology and operations support could someday become businesses that grow in a big way too. And then focusing on creating a collaborative effort to align resources and support for entrepreneurs in Lawrence. The city will help them with the necessary resources to grow, and that Lawrence becomes a place for small businesses and entrepreneurs, and to help, the city will help pave the way for their success through the recovery from COVID and beyond. So particularly within the area, as I said, there's a major focus on funding and financing investment. We want to improve the supply of equity capital because equity versus debt is a key issue for most businesses, whether they're startups or early stage growth companies. They need access to equity, investment capital, whether it's venture capital, angel investing, or creating loan-like products that have equity-like features. And they possibly could include grants as well. We want to support and scale the work of community development financial institutions and other mission lenders that operate within the Lawrence market. And finally, we want to encourage banks, regulated financial institutions who have Community Reinvestment Act responsibilities to expand their efforts to serve these businesses in Lawrence as they are required by federal statute. And in conjunction with capital for small businesses, we have to look at the issue of capacity building, as I mentioned, is that we want to expand online training and one-on-one assistance rather than just generalized and introductory trainings. We want to expand one-on-one coaching and curriculum-based trainings to help small businesses in different sectors at different stages of their growth and addressing their markets and their populations. And we want to support the creation and development of business incubators with an industry or geographic lens. Many cities, for instance, that have large immigrant populations have created food service incubators, and that's a possibility within Lawrence as well as other specific industry focus. Within economic development, we certainly want to address the workforce development and education and the systems that exist in Lawrence, and making sure that both workforce development and the public school system are creating strategies that help Lawrence residents compete and grow in today's strategic sectors. We want to also, in economic development, attract new investment, new reinvestment from outside of Lawrence, and helping. And we look at creating a incentive package to help attract those internal or external investors. Currently, there are 14 proposed projects that are in the development pipeline in Lawrence that we'll be reviewing and assisting with incentives, including parking and financial incentives as well. And as the plan is put together, as well as being implemented, we hope that most of these, if not all of these proposed projects, do come to fruition with the assistance of the city. And tying back to small business and entrepreneurship, this should be the heart of economic development efforts in Lawrence. The reason is simple. Most net new jobs, as I indicated earlier, across the United States come from new businesses, namely from businesses 5 years or younger. And we have seen through research that Lawrence is filled with the entrepreneurial spirit, especially from immigrant and first generation residents who have created numerous businesses, and they need that support. And this is where the heart of your economic growth will take place in conjunction with these other aspects of economic development. And finally, we want to position Lawrence as a tourist center with multiple attractions and events. Just going into the third element is focusing on housing, and the mayor's vision is to help meet the needs of local residents as well as welcome those seeking to live in Lawrence. We want to focus on promoting home ownership. Lawrence has a very low home ownership rate. The vast majority of the residents rent, and it has a below state average rate of home ownership. And we know that's unreachable for many, but with new funding support for home buyers and the creation of new affordable workforce and market housing, we would see that there is an opportunity to increase home ownership in Lawrence. And the Lawrence's future is on developing new housing opportunities for the future generation, as well as those seeking to move into the city. And that the mayor indicated that his administration will create a fund with the participation of financial institutions and other partners to support these housing initiatives. So we are focused on creating a local housing strategy that will detail how Lawrence will advance its housing policy objectives and have some clear set of housing objectives, a comprehensive approach on how we're going to meet those objectives, a timeline for implementation, and a process to make sure that we assess every year and evaluate how we're doing. Are we moving the needle? Are we changing things relative to housing, security, affordability, and certainly home ownership as well? We also want to focus on redevelopment, particularly in the downtown, and the Lawrence Investment Playbook will help identify catalytic real estate development projects, including looking at creating an innovation hub. As I mentioned, possibly incubators that support the creation and expansion of small businesses. We want to make sure that there's room and space for the small business community to grow, to thrive in downtown and throughout the city. And we want to create affordable and market rate housing, which is mixed with other uses, whether it's a hotel or commercial uses, to make a more dynamic downtown. And there are opportunities for redevelopment, including on Marston Street, where there's a 14-acre vacant former auto junkyard owned by the city, as well as a paper mill site on Merrimack Street owned by the city, and also to leverage brownfield cleanup, such as the St. Anne's property on Haverhill and Franklin, to develop a mixed-use property, potentially with a performing arts facility. So this is part of the investment playbook that we want to see how we can get specific projects funded. We also want to note that opportunity zones is, of the last 5 years, is one of the most significant pieces of federal legislation for economic development. And Lawrence has a number of opportunity zones, but in terms of marketing and promoting and attracting opportunity zone fund capital, there can be some better efforts in terms of attracting private investment to address the needs in these particular low opportunity communities that have been designated as opportunity zones. So where does this all come from? If I'm driving at, a lot of this is going to be around funding and financing and investment. There are numerous sources, and this is just a partial list. And certainly, as I mentioned, Community Reinvestment Act, banks have CRA responsibilities. There are mission-driven funds and intermediaries through philanthropy or community development financial institutions, whether they be local, regional, or statewide. There are anchor institutions such as hospitals and the community colleges. One of the largest initiatives out of the federal government this past year is the reintroduction of the State Small Business Credit Initiative, and Massachusetts has received millions of dollars to help finance small businesses. As you well know, the city receives from HUD community development block grants and home funds, and the state through mass development, as well as housing programs from the state and Massachusetts State Growth Capital Fund programs for small businesses. All of them provide funding and financing sources. EDA has been extremely active and has received a vast increase in funding, and there are opportunities there. U.S. Treasury Department has a number of programs through the Community Development Financial Institution Fund. And finally, as you well know, there's federal infrastructure funding as well. So these resources, they need to be coordinated and they need to be targeted to specific projects and to specific strategies. And the plan will outline on how that gets done. As you know as well, that there's ARPA recovery funds, American Recovery funds. And here is a graph that show the percentages in terms of how cities and are spending these funds right now. Many of them are focused on health and human services, but also there's a significant number that focus on the areas of the economic prosperity plan that we're outlining, including infrastructure, workforce and employment strategies, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, housing, small business support. Those middle categories, if you will, are the areas that we focus on and certainly want to recommend on how to use ARPA funding to support these prosperity initiatives. And I want to close with the complexity of doing catalytic projects. And this is an example from another city, but it reminds me of, in a lot of ways, of Lawrence, that has older historic buildings that have a potential for renovation. But in order to get some of these buildings done in the financing, you can see from the chart in the middle of the slide the incredible variety of funding sources that are needed. Federal new market tax credits and federal historic and state historic tax credits and state funding, as well as investor investment, and also ARPA funding, as well as other state incentives. So how do we attract that private investor to come in and do projects like this? You need to have the capacity to sit down with the developer and say, we can help you package these sources of funds and financing to make your deal work. So we're looking at Lawrence becoming an activist and assisting in terms of development finance and making these deals take place. We know, and finally, the key thing that one of the key things we'll be focusing on is coordination. There are at least a dozen organizations in Lawrence that are working on economic development. Some focus on larger businesses, some on workforce, on training and marketing and permitting to outside investors. Some focus on small businesses and entrepreneurs, and they provide capacity building or provide capital, such as the Community Development Financial Institution. This is a great asset that you have players out there, but what's lacking is a coordination, an ecosystem where everybody's working together, and the city should fill that role in terms of leadership, in terms of coordination, and making sure that all of the players are working together to achieve results as will be outlined in the economic prosperity plan. Finally, we want to meet with every one of you, each one of you individually. As of tomorrow, we'll be calling you to set up appointments, either virtual or in person, for over the next 2 weeks. We want to get your feedback and your thoughts in terms of what you think is important for the economic prosperity plan. And then by early May, we will have a draft report for the mayor's review, and then we'll finalize the report, and we'll come back to the city council as well as a public release, and then meet with financial institutions and key community stakeholders and talk about their role and how they can assist in the implementation of the prosperity plan. With that, I will close and thank you for the time and opportunity to meet with you tonight. And I look forward to meeting with you each individually over the next 2 weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Carra. As Mr. Carra has mentioned it, we are going to be receiving a phone call from the mayor's office just to book an appointment. It can be either virtual or we can be in person. I'm personally going to reserve my question just to kind of go over, because they are in a process just to put these projects together. But I'm going to open the floor in case any councilor wants to ask any question at this level, or you want to reserve it for later. Councilor Stephanie Infante.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just have a question to you, Chair. Are we going to be provided the PowerPoint presentation that you just shared, Mr. Cars? I have the same. Vivian can answer that?
Sure.
Was that a question, Madam Chair?
Yes, that was a question.
Could you repeat it, please? I was not able to hear the counselor. If you could repeat it, that maybe, because I can hear you clearly.
We also have Director Spanner here, in case you can't hear me, but my question was, if the council members will be provided with the slide deck that you presented to us this evening.
I'm still having problems hearing it. There's an echo.
Common Street. Yeah, the answer is yes. We are going to provide you. Can you hear me, James?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, well, so the question was if we are going to provide the council with the PowerPoint presentation, and the answer is yes. I would facilitate all of you with the information and also the contact information for Mr. James Karras.
Okay,
I'll send
so
that
that was,
right
wow. Doing great. So that was going to be the last question, since that we all going to be expecting that we all going to receive a call from the mayor's office just to set an appointment with one of each of us, and just to kind of provide any information that you might have at that moment.
Yes.
Thank you. So what we got? Councilor Levy?
It is possible for us to get the information before to have a meeting with him?
Oh, yes, definitely. I'm going to provide you the information tomorrow. So the scheduling will happen. I need to have a conversation tomorrow in terms of when Mr. Karras is going to be here in order to be, we spoke about next week, correct? Mr. Karras?
Between.
Yes. So we will schedule the appointment. In the meantime, if you have any question, this is a very transparent process, because our goal is not to have a report written without having attainable goals, because that would be waste of resources. So the more information that you can provide, and ideas, comments, and then that could be translated into very feasible and goal-oriented document and report for that Mr. Karras would prepare for us, all of us.
Thank you.
Councilor, at this point, I'm going to call motion to table this document 6322.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made, properly seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I do not have to call a recall because I don't have any counselor online. So we all present here. Yeah, still? Okay. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez? Yes. Councilor De La Cruz is absent. Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Councilor President?
Yes.
And the chair voting yes, so the motion carries.
Council Payano.
And Councilor Payano is also absent. Yeah, you know what? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Karras. We're looking forward to meeting you in person. Well, that's my wish. So we're looking forward to meet you in person, and thank you for the great presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time and your patience. And I will reach out to each one of you and send you the PowerPoint in the request for the appointment. But everybody will get a copy of the PowerPoint in an email from me.
Thank you. Councilor, can I get a motion to take document 10521 out of order?
So
It's
moved.
not a table. That has been table item? Okay. To take it out of order and out of table item. So the motion has been made by Councilor Selena Reyes, seconded by Councilor Levy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Councilor Stephanie.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Gregory De Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Giovanni Rodriguez. Yes. Councilor Pavel Payano is absent. Thank you, Councilor Levy. Councilor Maria de la Cruz is also absent. Councilor Levis.
Thank you, Madam
No,
Chair.
no, roll call, just to,
Yes.
Councilor President?
Yes.
And Chair voting yes, thank you. Document 10521 is LCAT Board of Direction request an update information about community television station, inviting LCAT Board and Director to be present at the City Council. So we have, I know that we have members to be. Councilor Levy. Okay, Councilor Levy, since you are one of the authors in this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, almost a year ago, I just put this item. I have to keep in mind, figure. Thank you. So almost a year ago, I just put the item regarding the LCATs, and we tried to do this for so long, trying to find like the way that maybe the LCAT act and in the community also as a part of the city of Lawrence. There are like so many questions that so many people have regarding the LCAT and how this work and can benefit, you know, and how we can benefit from the LCAT through the community and through the LCAT. I know there are so many questions in here, and I would like to call. So we sent an invitation to the member of the boards, but they replied to all that because of the time, so that we do not provide too much time that they needed at least 15 days for them to come in front of us and be prepared. So, but I also at that time last week, we invite Mr. Yaganello, that I would like him to come to the front because we have some questions regarding the ERCA. I'm sorry. Yes, we sent an invitation to Attorney Rano. I know that she is not available, and like you are here, we also have a question regarding the contract with the ERCAT. You have an answer. Okay, thank you. Whoever.
Okay, Councilor Rodriguez?
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity. I have a couple of questions in regard to this item. The first question will be to the attorney that is with us. And I would like to go over a few things that we have here. This is in regard to the Lawrence Community Access Television, Inc., and the contract that we currently have with them, if any. So currently, do we have a contract with that organization?
Well, to put it correctly, you would not have a contract with them. They would be your representative and have a contract with the cable company. The two cable contracts with LCAT being mentioned have expired. The new contracts, which are dated December 23rd, 2019 with Verizon, and the one September 1st, 2020 with Xfinity, do not list them as a vendor. So currently they are not on it. The question before the board is, you know, when you decide who's gonna handle this for you, you can insert them or you can insert some other thing. But currently there is no contract between the two cable companies and.
All right, so as far as I was reading, the last contract that the city of Lawrence had with the vendor was until 2017 or something like that?
There were two of them. One was a 2004 agreement, and one was a 2017 agreement, both of which have expired.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So essentially, we have a situation in front of us with a vendor that, for some reason, wasn't able to attend the city council meeting. So we have a vendor that have a expired contract with the city of Lawrence that wasn't able to attend because they require 2 weeks notice according to the email they sent to us as of why they were not able to be here tonight. So essentially, my question will be in terms of the legality of their being on that building now. Do we have a legal responsibility with them, even though they have an expired contract with the city of Lawrence?
Well, I would say it really depends on what this board decides to do. Obviously, if you decide to replace them, then it would, you could do whatever at that point with them being in. But if you wanted them to continue, you would probably want them to stay in place. You would want them to stay in the location they are. So I think it's, until this board makes up a decision what they wish to do with the FAR representative, my suggestion is it illegal? No, I mean, it's kind of a placeholder, but
No,
it's this board that gets to decide.
Yeah, and my question to you is because obviously we wanted to have an organization that is handling public funds that we are in a contract with. Perhaps if we don't have a contract, the first thing we need to do as a city is to develop a request for proposal that actually include the values of the city of Lawrence, so we can actually present possible bidders with what we're looking for in the city. And if we don't have that type of document in front of us, perhaps, or on a previous contract as of why we were requesting, as of what we were requesting back then in 2004, and then later on with the latest contract that expired in 2017. So I think that the first thing we need to do is to understand legally what are our responsibilities. And according to what you say, we have no contract currently. That's exactly what I was reading through here. And essentially the next step, I believe, that we should start thinking of developing a current contract that actually encumbers the current needs that the city have as of what we're looking for there. That's basically my whole concern. I thought that somehow, because I wasn't able to read fully the contract that we have with Verizon, or perhaps the one that we have with Xfinity, one is for 10 years.
Yes.
And it's just started in 2020.
Yes.
That will expire in 2030.
Correct.
So my legal question was going to be whether or not those contracts attach the current organization or vendor that we have running those channels at this point.
Currently, both of those contracts do not list a vendor. So the city is free to, again, do what you wish as far as procuring a vendor. Like I say, just putting out a request for proposal. I would think even if you were to retain the current licensee, you would probably want to, as you say, your requests and your needs have changed. You would probably want to put something new as what you would require of these people. And if somebody can't fulfill your needs, you can, like I say, put it out for bid for somebody that can. But that's up to this council. This council is free to.
Another question that I have, in terms of the infrastructure that we have on Exit Street, that they run the channel out of that building. That building is currently owned by the organization, or is currently owned by the city of Lawrence? I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
It's
Owned by the nonprofit.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I
Thank
just
you.
want to make sure.
Councilor President?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure I have many questions. I had a chance to review the contract. I've been on this for some time. I guess one of the things that is important to me, through you, Madam Chair, is the condition of the equipment in the council chambers, the condition of the equipment that broadcasts this information out, and the tremendous need that we have as a government agency to upgrade this equipment. Last year, we did some upgrades of the equipment. I'll be in all candor. I was hoping that we could get to an agreement with LCAT so that they would be able to fund the equipment, but that did not take place. We had to self-fund the new microphones and the new speaker systems inside here. And the challenge we're facing now because of the Zoom, et cetera, we heard it already with the feedback this evening, that there's some inadequacies that we're still facing as a city. So we were unsuccessful last year, but my hope remains that we improve the system. That to me is the most important thing. If you review the contract, you'll see several income sources that are coming in into the city, and I think what I don't want to do is rush into a conclusion tonight, because we do have a couple of members of city government that are here with Attorney Hooton and Mr. Reinel at CAFO. But it's important that before we jump to any conclusions, that we do hear from the representatives of the LCAT so they can talk to us a bit about what are they doing and what can they do to improve this, improve our current situation. The argument that we would face, or the argument that we would make, is that there are three elements to one of the funding streams. It's called the PEG. And each of those letters is an acronym. First is public. The second is, which in this case would be your Channel 8, if you will. They have you see a lot of non-government programs, non-school stuff. The second is the E for education, and the G stands for government, and that's us. And so the point that I'm making is I hear and I see the P. I see stuff at the Essex Street. I see new equipment being added, and they probably have a tremendous need for new equipment, and I'm not begrudging that. I know that the schools are doing tremendous things with the E. They're getting monies. The biggest portion of the pie goes to the schools out of that three. And then and this is where my questions come up, where do we come in? Why are we funding? So those are the questions that I have and that I'm looking forward to asking the LCAT, the current LCAT folks. What I'm learning tonight and just recently was the fact that there was a presumption on my part, apparently wrongly so, that it was LCAT that was designated as the nonprofit or the entity by which the monies would be going to fund the P, the public component of it. So knowing a little bit more about that, there seems to be, there may be some wiggle room here with respect to who that is. It could be them, it could be someone else. I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole tonight regarding whether we should keep them, not keep them, change. There's a lot of arguments on both sides of that would need some serious consideration by all of us. And I would imagine it would be useful to get some input from the mayor's office as well. So I don't really have a question, but I would just caution, as I would ask us to not jump to a conclusion this evening. When we've exhausted this, I would ask you, Madam Chair, if it would be in order, of course, to maybe invite them one more time, set a meeting, have them come in a couple weeks from now, have that discussion, and let's listen to what they have to say, and then we can make some judgments.
Thank you, Councilor President. Councilor Levis.
I don't receive any of them. I found them. They're available on the Attorney General's website. So just before I came down, the last filing available is 2019. So I do have 2019. It's their federal nonprofit tax return, their report to the Attorney General, and then their reviewed financial statements. They're reviewed by a certified public accounting firm. And those three documents are available online to the public. Just go on Yeah, it's public information, or it's made public by the Attorney General's office. We don't receive any of the money. It goes directly from the cable companies to LCAT, as directed by I believe, the original contract with Comcast and Verizon. The additional amount added to everybody's everybody's cable bill. The funds go from, they collect the funds from the ratepayers and distribute it directly to LCAT. And that's the agreement that Tim was just referring to between the city and the cable companies. The city directed the cable companies to send the money to the nonprofit LCAT. And so the money goes directly to them. It's about $300,000 to $350,000 per year. And as Councilor Rodriguez mentioned, they do own the building on Essex Street and a lot of equipment.
Okay. So at this point, I don't know if we should table and. Okay.
And I know that Rosario has a question, so let's wait until everybody asks the question, and then we decided what we are going to do with this item. Councilor Rosario.
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you. Question that I have, either CAF or the attorney. I'm not too familiar with the problem, but I was reading and also I asked a few questions. 2 years ago, we request some money for equipment, and they say they didn't have any money. Is anybody in charge to enforce them to give us the money that they're supposed to give us, or no? Because it seems like they do whatever they want to do without money, and nobody enforce anything to get us money to upgrade our equipment or to get the stuff that we need. Is anybody in charge to enforce them to pay us?
Well, we aren't, the money goes directly to LCAT, so they're managed by, they have a board of directors, and they decide how their funds get expended. Right now, we have, I think what you're referring to is if there's a complaint by the city that we're not getting good service, and again, they get the P and the G, as Councilor LaPlante mentioned earlier. They get the public access programming and the government access programming. So they get two pieces of the three-piece puzzle, and that should be for these council chambers and so on. They have a couple $100,000 in cash. They have plenty of cash, so they have plenty of money available, at least in 2019, their last filing. But I think it's just a matter of their board of directors directing them how to spend their money and satisfy the residents of the city of Lawrence.
But once again, who goes for us and say, you know what, this is your board of trustees, or I know you guys tell the institution who's going to get the money, but we represent the Lawrence and we want our part. So who's that person in charge to get that money?
Tim answer. I mean, the contract with the city and the cable companies is renewed, but there's nothing in there directing them. There's no renewal of the contract with LCAT, if I understood Attorney Hooton. So the question is if we don't want to, the mayor directs the cable companies to send it to LCAT. If he doesn't like it, to send it to LCAT, he can decide to change it somewhere else, I imagine. I'll let Attorney Hooton answer that.
Councilor, I think your answer is what Councilor Rodriguez had requested, is that you need, in the contract, we have to put stipulations. We have to say that money has to be sent for the city. So when we contract with them, so they can, there won't be an ambiguity, that they will know that we want current updates on all the city equipment, on the cameras, et cetera. So we have that opportunity now, obviously. In the past ones was not specific. I think there was a good faith. You know, you'll do good by us, and if this council feels they're not doing good by you, then I would suggest that that's what you put in the new contract with, no matter who the vendor is. Hey, here's what we want. We want the city taken care of, and here's what we would like, and that's how you take care of that.
Faith. They've been doing this for so long, and we still have faith that they're going to do it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes. Councilor President.
I just wanted to help, through you, Madam Chair, and just provide a little more of a context to the question. So last year, I worked with John Mejia here in our office to put together an estimate as to how much would it cost for us to really bring our equipment back to where it should be. And we put, through his good help, we were able to put together a $60,000 estimate that I then submitted to the LCAD board and said, here's the help that we need. We may not be able to get all in one bite, but I'd like to get us some bites in moving to that direction. Unfortunately, at that point, because of a variety of different reasons that are out of our control, that money wasn't forthcoming, which then forced, I'm going to say, our hand to improve the council chambers because we couldn't continue the way that we were. Now, I will say one more thing through you, Madam Chair, which is they have new leadership over there at the LCAT. For the longest time, they've had an individual that was there, I don't know, 20 years, maybe longer. I'm looking at people who know 17 years is what I'm hearing. So, and that's probably on the short side. It's probably even longer, but that's probably a pretty good estimate right there. 17 years. And then when for a variety of reasons, things changed over there, we've got new blood. We got new blood there. We got new blood here. We got new blood in the administration. Part of me wants to hear a little, now that they're getting their feet under them, what are they going to do to be partners with us? So that's my question. Thank you.
Councilor Infante?
Thank you, Chair. I don't know if anyone else has a question, but I would like to hear from LCAT as well. And I think we should make a motion to table and give them the opportunity.
Table, that's what we're doing. We are just giving opportunity to everybody just to kind of speak and just for them to bring something prepared for us, because eventually everybody's going to have a question. But yes, that's going to be our next step, the motion. Councilor Rodriguez and then Councilor Levis.
I have a few more questions about the contract, if you might. So, we currently have two contracts, one with Xfinity and one with Verizon.
Yes.
So if they're not listed as vendor, if the NCAT is not listed as vendor on those two contracts, and the last expired contract that they have with the City of Lawrence is from 2017, why they still getting the money that we receive as a city directly and not going through a process? Like when we receive a grant, perhaps, or we receive or when we receive any type of money that goes through the proper channels, the council and the mayor's office and so far, so on. So I'm wondering about that. I mean, are we, on the old contract, we have a provision there that the money goes straight to them, but now that we don't have a contract, why we don't follow the traditional procedures for money handling?
I believe the PEG money has to go to a nonprofit, or you have to have somebody set up. What would happen, and again, this is that if the city were to get the money directly, and then they would just shut down all operations because they weren't getting any money.
I mean, I'm assuming that once the city gets that, it will send it up to them.
The way the
Like any other grants.
the way the contracts read is that the cable company is supposed to pay it. Again, this is just my interpretation, that I think that the government didn't want the PEG money to go through governments because it might get used for other purposes. So they specifically said it had to be paid to whoever operates your cable, whoever the nonprofit that operates it. So that was the system, I believe, that was set up by the federal government so that the money didn't kind of diffuse through the city. But you could set up a department, like you could have a department in the city called a cable access board, set up your own, and you could funnel the money to them directly. But I don't believe it can come through your general funds.
Okay, no, just wondering to see if they're not listed as vendor, they keep on receiving the funds, and not providing with what the city, based on the city council present, not providing what the government needs, perhaps to do what is needed at the moment that is needed. And then why we don't have that process? So perhaps looking into the contract, see if it is anything that ensure that the money is being used for what the purpose is. And the needs currently, based on our current situation, we're not getting that hope, money-wise, So I think that we should at least review the contract that we have with Verizon and Xfinity, and then see how we can actually tell the current vendor that it's not legal, perhaps, because they don't have a contract. Well, that's my statement.
Yeah, and as I said, I think your point earlier was, is right on point, is what you have to do is you have to state what we expect of anybody that wants to have this contract with the, who wants to represent the city for the cable, what the city wants from that, and be very clear about it.
One more last comment or question, since we are going to be tabling the item, and we're going to invite in the other party just to be present for our next committee as a whole. I don't have a problem just to book in, like 2 weeks from now, a week from today, but Councilor Levy.
Thank you. My question is, when a contract is over in the city, who do the follow-up to renew those contracts? Why to wait so long and not to bring a contract back?
I think, this is just my opinion, and I think what happened is when the contracts came in, I believe the city had some, let's say, concerns with LCAT and did not insert them. They wanted, the cable companies, you wanted to renew the contracts, but at the same time, you did not want to be stuck with a vendor that maybe you were having problems with at that time. So we did negotiate the contract directly with the cable because you don't want to be out of that contract. And we just left that provision out because I believe that that's the, I mean, I think this is not a new message. I think there's a message that the mayor and city council has had for a little while. They're concerned, so that's why there was no vendor listed at that point.
Yeah, no, but what I said is like to wait 3 years to renew a contract because we are having without contract for 3 years right now.
Yeah, we have contracts with the cable company. We just don't have a contract with a vendor. So it's been done. The vendor is staying in place until being informed otherwise, or we decide something else.
Mr. Darnello, so Xfinity and Verizon, there is a percent that they've been asking to give it to the city or to the ERCAT? It's a percent on how they get, how they provide the money and say, okay, this is what we have to give it to you today, 50,000, 20,000. What is the deal? Do you know?
Well, there's, I don't have the percentage off the top of my head, but roughly 2.5% or of the cable bill goes to the school department for the educational piece, and then 2.5% roughly goes to the LCAT for the P and the G piece. And that's my understanding of the agreement with the cable company and LCAT. It's the cable company in the city. It's what percentage of, I'm not sure if it's set by federal statute or that fee that's added onto everybody's cable bill. I believe it's 5% or
5% in total?
Something like that, yep.
Every month?
Yep.
Quarterly?
And it's every month, and it's distributed to the school department quarterly, and I imagine to LCAT quarterly. I see the checks coming into the school department.
Just only to the school department?
Just the school department, right, because
So
they get it
nothing-
directly from the cable
nothing for
companies
the
to
other
the
two
school,
parts.
and then the cable company send it directly to LCAT.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No more questions, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair?
Councilor
I've got a
President.
question for the attorney. So refresh my memory on our ordinances when it deals with contracts. Refresh my memory as to the requirements of when the mayor's office can unilaterally enter into a contract without council approval and the time frame by which anything in excess of a certain, maybe 3 years, would require council approval.
These are long-term contracts. They would require council approval.
And these would be considered long-term contracts. Did we take did we take votes on these, on Verizon and Comcast?
I believe you did.
We took votes on both of them.
I can't say that I was present
Yeah?
during that vote,
Okay.
so I will hold off, but I believe it was it was
So
approved by-
when they came before us and we knew that we voted and endorsed these contracts, because we're not signers onto these contracts, you can see, that's just the mayor's office, of course. But, okay, so I just want to make sure that that was satisfied and that they did the right thing and that we did have a chance to vote on it, and so we're good. All right.
What you'll find is these cable companies usually don't make mistakes on that. They make sure that they have a contract that they're going to, because they make, as you know, a lot of money off of this, so they're.
You want to speak, Mr.?
Dear Council, I just wanted to clarify one thing, is that this administration did their due diligence in terms of meeting with ALCAT as well. And this is not playing the blame game, but this came before us. We have approached ALCAT, and we never had the opportunity to meet with them as well. So I just wanted to make it clear that we did reach out.
So Council Infante to table, motion to table document 10520.
So moved.
Second.
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, so, yeah. So are we going to be sending recommendation?
So let's.
We're going to send corresponded again to the members of the board. At this point, the same people that we sent at the last meeting, at the last whole committee meeting. So we're going to ask the city clerk just to resend the invitation to come in front of us. So I don't know if you would like to do it next week or you would like to do it in the next 2 weeks, because they are requesting 2 weeks to come in front of us.
I make that as a form of a motion.
The motion has been made, sent corresponded, properly second. Councilor President, before I call the question.
Sure, so there may be members of the audience that wish to speak, and I'm not sure if you're aware of
Yes, we can invite also the member of the audience.
So it's open, so we're going to withdraw the motion and just to kind of.
We don't have to.
We can?
Yes.
So, okay, well, we're going to finish with the motion and then we're going to give that opportunity. Okay, so the motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Did you take the motion? Is to
Okay,
send
so
correspondent to the
let's-
same?
Okay, okay. Councilor Stephanie,
Yes.
Councilor Salina,
Yes.
Councilor Rosario,
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez,
Yes.
Councilor Payano is absent, Councilor De La Cruz is absent, Councilor Levy,
Yes.
Councilor President,
Yes.
and the chair is yes. So we are going to give the opportunity to any person in the item that wants to be speak.
Good evening, councilors. Dalia Diaz, 315 Mount Vernon Street in Lawrence. I'm going to give you some details because I'm sure that none of you have been able to follow this issue for 17 years the way I have. The purpose for which LCAT was created, and especially Channel 8, is to give the opportunity to people in the community, anyone who wanted to produce a show on any topic, to really be freedom of information. They haven't done that. In fact, I used to do 2 shows, one in English and one in Spanish, at the very beginning, and they canceled. They just didn't want somebody in my crew. I had my own crew. They didn't want that someone because that person used to go on the radio and badmouth the administration of that time. It had nothing to do with what we were doing, but that's the way they operated. They have made it very difficult for people to produce anything unless it's done by them or approved by them, like veterans and things like that. But giving freedom to the people to talk doesn't exist there. I want to let you know that the board used to have 11 members. It has boiled down to just 3 because nobody's interested in participating in something like that. The vice president was from Lawrence, Nicolas, I forget his last name now, a pastor. He was vice president, and when Jim Ross died, he was supposed to become the president of the board. Instead, they kicked him out. I've had conversations with him left and right. Totally illegal what they have been doing. The board now consists of 3 people. One lives in Lawrence, the other 2 in Methuen. This organization was formed for Laurentians to communicate with the people, for us to run it, not to have strangers from other towns coming here to tell us what we should hear or not. And the executive director in the studio happens to be also from Methuen. What are we going to do? This is unthinkable that we have allowed this to happen for the past 17 years. It was in November of 2005 when the original contract was signed and the nonprofit was created. Contrary to what you have heard tonight, I have a copy of the newest contract signed with Comcast in August of 2020, and it expires in 2030. I can give you all copies. I gave a copy to the mayor. So I don't know how they can explain that if they don't have it in their records. Thank you so much, and I am forever grateful that you are finally taking this up because we waited too long. Thank you, Councilor Levy.
Mrs. Diaz, do not move. Would you like also to be part of to be invited, to be part of the meeting, the next meeting that we're gonna have with them, that you can provide those information, even though we're gonna have and we can ask the question, but sometimes it goes back and forth when we ask questions that we don't have the full information that we need to get
Right.
provided.
The mayor already asked me, and I refused, because I said, I have been fighting for this for so long. I was producing 2 shows there, and I don't want the public to get the impression that I'm looking for something, either a job, a position, power. I don't want anything. I don't want to be involved with that. I want you to do it. I want the people of Lawrence to take advantage of something so valuable that we have. And another thing, they have $500,000 saved in investments, money that they have put away. So don't let them cry over money. And I hope you get your money back, Councilor.
Okay, so we just wanna give that opportunity.
And I thank you for that.
Okay, so thank you for that. I think that information is gonna be well taken. And if you can provide that to us, I promise that those 2 questions that we're gonna.
Tons of information at
Okay,
home.
thank you.
Thank you.
So anyone else? Hear none?
Just wanted to inform the board, the contract she refers to, you have both of them. You have the current contracts. So the one she talked about that goes for 10 years, she said you don't have, but you do have. You have it in front of you.
Okay. Motion, we already tabled the motion. Yeah, no, oh. The motion to table, document 10521.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made, properly second, all those in favor?
Aye.
I have it. Councilor Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Rodriguez. Councilor Pavel is absent. Councilor De La Cruz is absent. Councilor Levy.
Yes.
Councilor President.
Yes.
And the chair voting yes. The motion is tabled.
Thank you very much.
Next document is document 11022. I believe we have that table, right? No, we have that. Okay, so 11022 is the council comment on the Federal Energy Regulation Commission license that has been put on the agenda by Councilor and President LaPlante.
Madam Chair, can we just table that, or can we just take out of order document 111 because there's an order to this?
Okay. Motion to take document 11122 out of order.
Second. Oh,
Motion has been made, properly second. All those in favor?
Aye. Roll call. For item 110 and 22 and item 111, 22, right? As a package, you want to take it? No. Okay. So for item 111, 22, I call the roll call. Councilor Stephanie Infante.
Yes.
Councilor Selena Reyes.
Yes.
Councilor Del Rosario.
Yes.
Councilor Levy. Councilor De La Cruz, absent. Councilor Payano, absent. Council President LaPlante.
Yes.
All right, we have item 11122, which is the council comment to the Massachusetts Historical Commission on the canal license. It was put together by Councilor President LaPlante. So you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So there were similar items. It's a fairly complicated matter, but let me see if I can simplify it. This is fundamentally dealing with the license by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission to Clean Rivers Power. What Clean Rivers Power is looking to do is to have an agreement before we start discussion about the license that would take essentially the bulk of the north and the south canals, and generally speaking, there's other elements that may not with that, gatehouse and such, but those canals, and remove them from the upcoming license application. There are 3 parties who would have to sign what is known as the Memorandum of Agreement, or the shorthand is MOA. One would be Clean Rivers Power. The second would be the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC, that's the shorthand FERC. And the third is the SHPO, which is an acronym for the State Historic Preservation Officer. And that person resides in the Secretary of State's office. Secretary of State's office has a deadline of getting whatever comments we have, because they're looking to issue they're looking to figure whether or not they're going to sign it by April, I think it's April 25th. So we need to, if we're going to have a comment regarding this, we as a council, not as a city, because interestingly, there is the mayor who, as we just talked briefly, he's a part of the concurrent agreement, not to muddy things up, but that's one body. That's one part of the government, whereas another part of the government. So this would be our comments to the State Historic Preservation Officer, the SHPO. What you will see in your agenda and in your packet is the draft letter that I put together that starts off with the background as to where we are now. It talks a little bit about the city's beginnings. It talks a little bit about how the Essex Company came to be, how the city became a town in 1847 based on the water rights and the need for water power. And after we get through that, and it talks about a little bit of our history in about a paragraph or two, so it's very, very concise. And then talks a little bit about the state of disrepair of the canals today. Under the comments section, you'll see that it's really looking to essentially keep our options open. And what I mean by that is there may be a need, and most of us had a chance to visit Merrimack Paper. We went in there, it was really bad. We also went into Pacific Mills, where there was more of an infrastructure there. That was much better. But there might be a need or desire in the future to use those to once again utilize the potential power of the canal for energy purposes. If we take this thing out, if not us, but if the parties, so 3 we talked about, take that out, the challenge here is, are we ever going to be able to at least consider that possibility or visit that possibility in the future, because now the agency that governs the electricity is no longer governing and provides a license for that operation, for that extraction, for that power source to take place. I hope that's clear. So this letter is encouraging the SHPO not to sign the MOA, for essentially the reason is because there may be opportunities for us to pursue, and if we cut that out, then we kind of lose that opportunity. At least if we allow this to go forward, they don't sign it, we can continue the discussion. We have a representative from Clean Rivers Power here this evening, but we can continue, whoever we is, we can continue the discussion regarding what possibilities are there with respect to water power. Ultimately, maybe nothing happens, or maybe something does happen, but I don't know what's going to happen 3 or 4 years, or maybe 10 years from now. I just don't know, but I just want to keep that option open for us. So that's what this letter essentially says.
Council President, do you mind reading the letter for the record?
I do not mind. So this is a draft letter. This is to the Mass Historic Commission, or otherwise known as MHC. This letter is the Lawrence City Council response to the Essex Company LLC's draft application for non-capacity license amendment, MOA, for the Lawrence Hydroelectric Project number 2800 at the Merrimack River in Lawrence, Massachusetts. Background. It is not hyperbole to state that Lawrence, Massachusetts was created for the Essex Company. In 1845, the Massachusetts legislature granted the Essex Company a charter to exclusively develop the Merrimack River's water power near a place called Bodwell Falls or Deer Run Falls. So close was the relationship between the company and this potential power source that in 1847 the area was incorporated and named after the family who funded most of the development for the Essex Company, the Lawrence family of Groton, Massachusetts. In fact, 4 of the first 7 Lawrence mayors were senior Essex Company officials. The Essex Company's prize accomplishment was building the Merrimack River's Great Stone Dam. It was the largest dam in the world when it was completed in 1848, and it diverted water to feed the canals. Soon the city would become a world leader in creating textiles with the production from mills created alongside those newly built canals. However, the city endured a period of boom and bust, and after World War I, mills began to slowly leave the area for the more profitable South. During this time, the Essex Company continued its ownership and maintenance of the canals. In the late 1970s, the Essex Company applied for and received a license to create hydroelectric power at the Great Stone Dam. Mill powers were still being used as recently as 2006 at the Merrimack Paper site. Unfortunately, for the better part of this century, the canals were not properly maintained. Their degradation may have been avoided had the Essex Company comported with their current hydroelectric license. Today, the canals are in disrepair, and a 2019 Woodward and Curran report highlights the areas of concern. They are also unsafe, and eyesore encounters other great works by our residents to improve our city. The comment. The City Council does not support the memorandum of agreement that would remove the North and South Canals from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission's hydroelectric power license renewal. But for the degradation of the canals due to Essex Company's lack of proper maintenance, a generating power along the canals would be more likely. Power generation is more realistic with the city, with the Essex Company under new management since 2019, recent effort to correct years of neglect. In addition, the city has mill powers at the Merrimack Paper site that it recently acquired through tax title, and the Lawrence Redevelopment Authority also has recently acquired mill powers at the Pacific Mills. Furthermore, the city is witnessing a generational turnover at several mill properties with new property owners. If the MOA is executed, it would block any resurgence in renewable energy possibilities with the new property owners along the canals. We urge the MHC to not sign the MOA, just like our sister city, Lowell, Massachusetts, who has also amid their hydroelectric power license renewal. We urge MHC to reject the MOA and to allow the canal discussion to continue during the full licensing process. Lowell's canals are not only repaired, but they are restored. Their canals are part of their license. This should be our aim. Please allow the momentum and synergy that the stakeholders, city, and Essex Company have recently developed to benefit the mutual interest of all parties. Regards, members of the Lawrence City Council.
All right, councilors, we have a draft letter in front of us that we're going to take a vote to either adapt or not to adapt. At this point, I would like to open the floor to any councilor that have any comment in regard to the canal situation, or perhaps the letters that we have in front of us for discussion. Councilors, at this point, and open the floor. Councilor Infante.
Thank you. I'm only asking this question because on our agenda, we have it as two separate items, and I just want to make it clear for those who may be watching, or this is the same letter will be going to both FERC and MHC, correct?
So, Council President,
Through-
can you answer?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So I'm hoping that we do not move on the first one, because I want to see we should see what happens with this, with the Mass Historic Commission, and see what the response is. We will have some time after to modify the FERC letter should we need to, but at least that FERC letter will stay here. We don't have to reintroduce it, and we can move it quickly when we need to.
Yes, correct. So essentially, the CHIPO is the one that we're going to be sending the letter to, that is on the Secretary of the State in Boston at this point. Eventually down the road, if we need to, we will send the letter to the Federal Energy Regulations Commission. Councilor Infante?
Thank you. I have a follow-up question. I'm thinking of the previous meeting. Did something change between then and now that I believe the vote was to send it directly to FERC? Did something change?
Yes. Essentially, the draft MOA went to FERC, but CHIPO need to sign on it. And that's essentially why we send in the letter to CHIPO, because he's one of the signees on the MOA.
Right, that I remember, but from what I recall, and I could be wrong, there was some timing, I guess SHPO was the next day or something like that, and someone said that we voted to send this directly to FERC. No.
Through you, Council
Clarify,
President?
please.
Sure. So the Clean Rivers Power had a deadline to get something over to FERC. They had a deadline coming up, so they had to get that document, which they did. And so now FERC has it. Now the clock is ticking for the SHPO to figure out whether they're not going to sign it or not.
Thank you.
Yes. Essentially, that's basically how it's going to go. There is any other questions regarding?
I think so that the deadline was March
So,
30. That is the day that they say that
Council Levy?
they have it. Yeah.
So we agree on that, on what Councilor Levy just said,
So we can
right?
do a motion now?
Well, essentially, councilors, we have a letter in front of us. If we want to move to adopt this letter and send it over to SHPO, we can take a vote to the full council, and then from there we can take a vote.
Motion to send it to the full council.
Second.
There is a motion to send this letter to the full council with a favor recommendation.
With favor recommendation.
With favor recommendation. It has been second as well, so we call the roll call. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor Rosario?
Yes.
Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz is absent. Councilor Payano is absent. Council President LaPlante?
Yes.
And I vote yes. All right, we have
you're missing-
sent this letter to the full council with a favor recommendation. Now we would like to call the next item, which probably we're going to table at this point. 11022, which is the council comment for the Federal Energy Regulation Commission at this point. So we would like to open this item. So councilors, we have a member of the MMA, one of the party that are here, would like to say some comments. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Skip Medford. I reside in New Hampshire. I represent Central Rivers Power. Thank you for the
So you
opportunity.
have the floor on item 11022.
Was that SHPO letter?
That was not SHPO, that's FERC. We sent the item to the full council on the SHPO portion.
I was intending to comment on that item, and I didn't see the public opportunity.
I think that because both are related, and at this point, we have the same letter in front of us. If you comment on one, it will be related to the other one.
Yes,
And
very
we got the
good.
point, yes.
Thank you. Very, very good letter, and thank you, Councilor LaPlante, for drafting it. I might note that Central Rivers Power acquired the Lawrence project in early 2020, not 2019. Sure. And the opportunity for education and synergy with the city of Lawrence and other stakeholders is very apparent and obviously needed. And I think it's very timely too, because as we heard from Mr. Karras early tonight, infrastructure and the centrality of each canal in Lawrence really presents a lot of opportunities in many different areas. So, thank you very much. We look forward to your letter when submitted, and we remain available to you for any consultation or information you'd like. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Councilor. We have this item in front of us. At this point, we're gonna wait, as Councilor President stated, to see what happened with SHPO, and then we can definitely update or send this letter that with new information to FERC. Councilor, at this point, if there is any comment, we welcome those comments. If it's not, we would like to table this item at this level.
Motion to table?
Second?
All right, there is a motion to table, properly second. I call the roll call. Councilor Levy?
Yes.
Councilor De La Cruz is absent. Councilor Payano is absent. Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
Councilor Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Council President LaPlante?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Oh, Councilor Estela Reyes, she's absent as well, for the record, and I vote yes. So motion is tabled. Councilors, we have no more items at this point, unless you want to take one of the items, either a new business that we have one, or any table matters. This is the moment to take those table those items, if you wish.
Motion to adjourn?
There is a motion to
Second.
adjourn, properly second. I'll call the roll call. Councilor Infante?
Yes.
Councilor Reyes?
Yes.
Councilor De Rosario?
Yes.
Councilor Reyes is absent. Councilor Levy? Yes. Councilor De La Cruz is absent. Councilor Payano is absent. Councilor President LaPlante?
Yes.
And I vote affirmative. Thank you so much, councilors.